In the heart of the dusty landscape, nestled between rolling hills and sun-baked plains, lay the small town of Dusty Creek. It was a place where the air buzzed with excitement and the scent of adventure lingered like smoke from the saloon's chimney. The townsfolk would often gather at the Rusty Spur, the wild saloon that stood proudly at the center of town. Its wooden doors creaked open to reveal a lively atmosphere filled with laughter, music, and clinking glasses. Cowboys and wanderers alike found their way there, seeking refuge from their long journeys or simply looking to unwind after a hard day's work. The saloon was alive with colorful characters, grizzled old miners sharing tall tales, spirited dancers captivating audiences with their lively steps, and card players testing their luck at rickety tables. Yet beneath this vibrant facade lay an undercurrent of tension. Whispers of old feuds floated around like dust in the wind, hinting at trouble on the horizon. As night fell and shadows danced across the saloon, anticipation hung thick in the air, making everyone aware that in Dusty Creek, excitement could quickly turn into chaos. Little did they know that a single whisper was about to change everything forever. Amid the bustling energy of Dusty Creek, one figure often stood apart from the crowd: Jack. Clad in a weathered brown hat and a dusty coat that had seen more than a few adventures, he was known as the quiet cowboy who preferred the company of his thoughts to that of others. With piercing blue eyes that seemed to hold secrets, Jack would often be found leaning against the wall of the Rusty Spur, watching the lively scene unfold before him. Rumors swirled about Jack's past like leaves caught in the wind. Some said he was once a notorious outlaw, while others claimed he had fled from a life filled with heartache and regret. Despite his mysterious history, Jack never spoke of it, choosing instead to remain an enigma to those around him. He would occasionally share a laugh or offer a helping hand, but mostly kept to himself, reflecting on memories that only he understood. As night approached and laughter echoed from within the saloon, Jack's thoughts turned darker. He could feel the tension building in the town. It was like a storm brewing on the horizon. He sensed that something was about to happen, something that might force him to confront his past and emerge from his quiet solitude. Just when the air in Dusty Creek seemed thick with tension, a vibrant spark arrived in the form of Lydia. She rode into town one sunny afternoon on a spirited chestnut mare, her laughter echoing like music through the streets. With her bright smile and lively spirit, Lydia quickly captured the attention of everyone at the Rusty Spur. She greeted familiar faces and shared stories that brought warmth to the chilly undercurrents lingering in the saloon. As the townsfolk gathered around her, Jack found himself drawn to her infectious energy. He watched from his usual spot, intrigued by how easily she made friends, her laughter ringing out like a bell. She was different from anyone he had ever met, a breath of fresh air in a town that often felt stagnant. As she spoke about her adventures and dreams, Jack felt something shift within him, stirring feelings he had long kept buried. Yet, even as Lydia brightened the room, Jack couldn't shake his unease about the upcoming storm. He sensed that her arrival might either mark a new beginning or plunge the town deeper into chaos. With each passing moment, he realized that Lydia could be the light he needed to confront his past, but it could also draw unwanted attention from old enemies lurking nearby. As Lydia settled into the rhythm of Dusty Creek, whispers began to circulate through the town like a summer breeze carrying secrets. Tales of an old feud between two rival gangs, the Silver Spurs and the Black Crows, resurfaced, igniting tension among the townsfolk. Though the gangs had been at odds for years, their conflict had remained dormant, until now. In hushed tones, people spoke of a late-night meeting that had taken place in the hills just outside of town. Rumors hinted at plans for revenge brewing beneath the surface, fueled by past grievances and long-held grudges. It was said that the leaders of both factions were restless, eager to settle old scores and assert their dominance over Dusty Creek. The mere mention of their names sent shivers down spines, reminding everyone of the violence that could erupt at any moment. Jack could feel the weight of these whispers as he leaned against the wall of the Rusty Spur, his heart racing with unease. He knew all too well how quickly feuds could escalate into chaos. As Lydia continued to charm the townsfolk, Jack felt a mix of protective instincts and urgency. If he didn't act soon, the peaceful atmosphere might be shattered forever, dragging everyone, including Lydia, into the storm. As the sun set over Dusty Creek, the atmosphere inside the Rusty Spur grew charged with tension, thick enough to cut with a knife. Conversations that once flowed easily were now punctuated by nervous glances and hushed voices. Whispers about the rivalry between the Silver Spurs and Black Crows had reached a fever pitch, igniting fear and excitement among the patrons. Jack stood near the bar, his instincts on high alert. He watched as members of both gangs entered the saloon, swaggering with bravado. The air crackled with anticipation as people whispered about possible confrontations. Moments later, a heated argument broke out near the poker tables, setting off a wave of anxiety rippling through the crowd. Lydia, caught in the middle, glanced around in confusion but retained her brave spirit. Jack could see her fidgeting, feeling the shift in energy as danger loomed closer. Just as it seemed that words would de-escalate the tension, one gang member knocked over a table in anger, spilling drinks everywhere and drawing everyone's attention. The room fell silent for a heartbeat before it burst into chaos. Shouts echoed, and faces turned pale as fear gripped the patrons. Jack's mind raced. He had to act fast to protect Lydia and prevent a bloodbath from erupting right there in the saloon. That fateful night at the Rusty Spur began like any other, with laughter ringing through the air and drinks flowing freely. The warmth of camaraderie enveloped the saloon as friends gathered to share stories, dance, and forget their troubles. Lydia's infectious laughter mingled with the lively music, creating an atmosphere filled with joy and revelry. However, beneath the surface, danger lurked like a shadow waiting to pounce. Jack felt it in his bones, a prickling unease that warned him something wasn't right. The rival gangs had been eyeing each other from opposite corners of the room, their presence palpable even amidst the merriment. As the clock struck 10, the atmosphere shifted. Friendly banter turned into taunts as members of the Silver Spurs exchanged heated words with the Black Crows. Jack's heart raced as he kept a watchful eye on Lydia, who remained blissfully unaware of the brewing storm. With every passing moment, he could sense the tension escalating, threatening to erupt at any second. Just as a particularly loud laugh echoed across the saloon, a bottle shattered against the wall, a signal that chaos was no longer just a possibility. It was about to become reality. Jack braced himself for what was coming, determined to protect Lydia and everyone else caught in this explosive situation. As the tension mounted, the skirmish between the Silver Spurs and the Black Crows ignited like a spark in dry grass. Jack's instincts kicked in. He knew he had to intervene before the situation spiraled out of control. Stepping forward, he raised his hands, hoping to calm the situation with words. "Hey now, let's not do anything we'll regret," he called out, his voice steady but firm. But his plea was drowned out by shouts and insults flung back and forth. The gang members were too consumed by their anger to notice him, their faces flushed with adrenaline and aggression. Jack's heart raced as he tried again to interject, but each effort felt futile against the rising tide of hostility. Suddenly, one gang member lunged at another, fists flying. Jack instinctively moved to intercept the blow, but it was like trying to halt a raging river. In a matter of seconds, chaos erupted in the saloon. Tables overturned, glasses shattered, and people screamed as they scrambled for safety. Amidst the whirlwind of fists and fury, Jack's focus sharpened on Lydia, who stood frozen in shock. He had to get her out of there, and fast, before the bloodbath claimed more than just pride. The moment the first punch was thrown, chaos erupted in the Rusty Spur. The lively saloon, once filled with laughter and music, transformed into a battleground as the Silver Spurs and Black Crows clashed. Jack's heart raced as he witnessed the scene unfold before him. Men grappling fiercely, shouts of anger echoing, and tables flying as patrons scrambled for cover. The air thickened with tension, punctuated by the sounds of fists connecting with flesh and wooden chairs splintering underfoot. Jack fought through the swirling mass of bodies, desperately trying to reach Lydia, who remained frozen in shock against the bar. He could see fear in her eyes as she tried to comprehend the violence around her. Just then, a gang member swung a bottle, shattering it against the wall, sending shards of glass flying like deadly confetti. With adrenaline surging through him, Jack reached Lydia and grabbed her arm firmly. "We need to get out," he shouted above the din. But as they turned to escape, a group of fighters collided nearby, blocking their path. The bloodbath raged on, and regret hung heavy in the air. This was no longer just a fight. It was a tragedy unfolding before their eyes as friendships shattered and lives were put on the line. Jack felt the weight of the chaos pressing down on him as he stood at the center of the turmoil, torn between his instinct to protect Lydia and his duty to shield the innocent bystanders caught in the crossfire. The saloon became a whirlwind of violence. Gang members fought fiercely, and nearby patrons cried out in panic. Some even trampled underfoot as they tried to escape. As he scanned the room, Jack spotted a group of frightened locals huddled near a corner, eyes wide with terror. "Stay here," he shouted to them, but their fear kept them frozen in place. He had to make a choice. He couldn't save everyone alone. In that moment, he noticed a gang member aiming to strike at a young man who had accidentally bumped into him during the chaos. Without thinking, Jack lunged forward, intercepting the blow just in time, knocking the assailant off balance while pushing the young man to safety. As the fighting intensified and shouts filled the air, Jack realized he had to be strategic. He couldn't just react. He needed a plan. Taking a deep breath, he made eye contact with Lydia, silently communicating that they needed to regroup. It was time to act swiftly and decisively before this bloodbath consumed them all. The aftermath of the clash left Dusty Creek reeling, and the once vibrant saloon now stood as a haunting reminder of the chaos. Broken glass littered the floor, mingling with spilled drinks and remnants of shattered friendships. Patrons that had laughed and danced just hours before now turned away from one another, eyes filled with distrust and sorrow. The lively atmosphere was replaced by an unsettling silence, punctuated only by the whispers of regret. Jack surveyed the wreckage alongside Lydia, who looked around with a mix of shock and disbelief. "I never thought it would come to this," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. He nodded in agreement. He had witnessed not only the physical damage but also the emotional scars that would take longer to heal. In the days that followed, the town's spirit felt fractured. Bonds that once united families began to strain under the weight of betrayal. Neighbors eyed each other warily, unsure if they could trust those who had once been friends. Old scores festered anew, and any hope for reconciliation seemed distant. Jack knew that healing would take time, but he also understood that it was crucial for Dusty Creek to find a way forward before bitterness consumed them all completely. In the days that followed the chaos, Jack found himself deep in thought, reflecting on the events that had unfolded. The silence that blanketed Dusty Creek felt heavy, almost suffocating. It was a silence filled with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. Grief, anger, and regret hung thick in the air. He realized how much louder this silence spoke than any shout or argument ever could. Jack pondered the moments leading to the bloodbath, remembering how simple whispers and overlooked signs had escalated into violence. He could see now that sometimes, avoiding confrontation or failing to voice concerns could lead to unexpected and dire outcomes. The townsfolk's reluctance to address their differences had transformed their simple disagreements into a full-blown catastrophe. As he walked through the streets, witnessing the fractured relationships around him, Jack felt a growing determination to break this silence. He knew that healing would only begin when people started talking again, sharing their fears and hopes instead of hiding behind resentment. With each step, he resolved to encourage conversations among neighbors, believing that even small discussions could mend the bonds they thought were broken forever. Sometimes, it took more than just words. It required action to transform silence into understanding. As time passed, the people of Dusty Creek began to emerge from the shadows of their painful experience. Jack's efforts to encourage dialogue started to bear fruit. Hushed conversations turned into open discussions. Community meetings filled the town hall, where neighbors gathered to share their feelings and concerns, slowly rebuilding trust that had been shattered. The Rusty Spur, once a site of chaos, transformed into a place for healing. Instead of whispers of past grievances, laughter and stories returned to its halls, fostering a sense of camaraderie among those who had once been divided. New friendships blossomed as connections deepened through shared experiences and understanding. Jack found solace in witnessing this gradual change. He realized that although the scars from the clash would always remain, they served as reminders of lessons learned, the importance of communication and unity in overcoming adversity. Lydia stood by his side, her spirit undaunted by the past. She became an advocate for peace in the community. Dusty Creek emerged stronger than before, with a renewed commitment to harmony. As they looked ahead, the townsfolk held on to hope for a brighter future, one defined not by old feuds but by collaboration and friendship. The journey was far from over, but together, they were ready to face it with open hearts and minds.